My name is Emma. I'm 32 years old, and I want to tell you a story that happened to me not too long ago. And I want people to learn from my experience and not make such silly mistakes. I'll start the story over. My husband had been looking forward to this business trip to Bali for weeks. He had been working long hours, putting in extra effort to make sure that everything was in order before he left. He promised me that he would stay in touch every day and send me pictures of his adventures. On the day of his departure, I could see the excitement in his eyes. He hugged me tightly and kissed me on the forehead before heading out the door. For the first few days, he kept his promise. He would send me pictures of the beautiful beaches, the incredible sunsets, and the exotic foods he was trying. I could see the excitement in his face, and I was happy for him. He deserved a break from his stressful job. However, as the days went by, I noticed that his messages became less frequent. At first, I didn't think too much of it. I figured that he was just busy with work and didn't have time to check in as often, but as the days turned into weeks, my concern grew. I tried to call him, but he wouldn't answer. I sent him messages, but he wouldn't respond. I started to worry that something was wrong. Then, one day, I received a message from my friend Sarah. She was also in Bali for work, and she had seen my husband there. She sent me a picture of them together, smiling and holding hands on the beach. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe they had just bumped into each other and were catching up. But as I looked closer, I realized that their body language was too intimate. They were standing too close, holding hands for too long. My heart sank as I realized what was going on. My husband was cheating on me, in Bali, with my own friend. The message from my friend Sarah sent me into a state of shock. My husband was cheating on me with my own friend while he was supposed to be on a business trip in Bali. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the picture spoke volumes. Their body language was too familiar, too intimate for me to ignore. I felt sick to my stomach as I realized what had been going on behind my back. I tried to confront my husband over the phone, but he wouldn't answer. I sent him messages, but he didn't respond. It was like he was avoiding me. My mind raced with thoughts and questions. How long had this been going on? Was this the first time he cheated on me? Why did he do it with my friend? I couldn't stand the uncertainty any longer. I knew I had to confront him face to face. I booked a ticket to Bali and flew out the next day. When I arrived, I went straight to his hotel. I knocked on his door, but he didn't answer. I pounded on it again and again, but still nothing. I decided to go to my friend Sarah's hotel. I needed answers. When I arrived, she was surprised to see me. "Hey, what are you doing here?" she asked. "I came to find out the truth," I said, "about you and my husband." Her face fell. "I'm so sorry," she said, tears in her eyes. "It was a mistake. We never meant for it to happen." "How could you do this to me?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger and hurt. "It just happened," she said. "We were both lonely, and we found comfort in each other's company." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My friend had betrayed me, and my husband had cheated on me. I felt like my world was falling apart. After the initial shock of discovering my husband's infidelity, I was consumed by anger and hurt. I couldn't believe that he had cheated on me, let alone with my own friend. But instead of wallowing in self-pity, I decided to take action. I knew that I couldn't just forgive and forget. I needed to get back at him, to make him feel the same pain that I was feeling. And so, I came up with a plan. I started by doing some research. I found out where my husband was staying and where he was going to be for the next few days. Then, I contacted a private investigator to help me gather more information about his whereabouts and actions during his trip. With the help of the private investigator, I learned that my husband had been seeing my friend Sarah for the entire 2 months that he was in Bali. They had been going on romantic dinners, holding hands on the beach, and even staying in the same hotel room. Armed with this information, I decided to confront my husband. But instead of just yelling and screaming at him, I wanted to make him feel the same pain that I was feeling. I wanted him to realize the gravity of his actions. So I came up with a plan to get revenge. I would pretend that everything was fine and that I had forgiven him. I would welcome him home with open arms and act like nothing had happened. But behind the scenes, I would be working to exact my revenge. I would hire an actor to play the role of a handsome, wealthy man who was interested in me. I would make sure that my husband saw us together and became jealous. I would also make sure that my husband's colleagues and friends knew about his infidelity. I would spread the word that he had cheated on me with my own friend, making sure that his reputation was tarnished. I knew that my plan was risky, but I was determined to make my husband pay for his betrayal. I was ready to do whatever it takes to get my revenge. As I waited for my husband's return, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction knowing that I had a plan for revenge. I had prepared for weeks and was ready to make him pay for his infidelity. When my husband finally returned home, he seemed surprised to see me waiting for him at the airport. I plastered a fake smile on my face and acted as if everything was fine. I hugged him tightly and pretended like I was happy to see him. Over the next few days, I continued to act as if everything was normal. I cooked his favorite meals, listened to his stories about his trip, and even made love to him as if nothing had happened. But behind the scenes, I was working on my plan. I had hired a handsome actor named Ryan to play the role of my new love interest. Ryan was charming, wealthy, and knew exactly how to make my husband jealous. I made sure that my husband saw Ryan and me together at public places, such as restaurants and coffee shops. I knew that this would make him feel uncomfortable and start to realize what he had lost. At the same time, I made sure that my husband's colleagues and friends knew about his infidelity. I spread the word about his affair with my friend Sarah, making sure that everyone knew what had happened. My husband started to become increasingly jealous of Ryan, and our relationship started to deteriorate. He would question me about my relationship with Ryan, but I would always tell him that he was just a friend. One day, I decided to take things up a notch. I invited my friend Sarah over to my house and asked my husband to join us for dinner. As we sat down to eat, I watched as my husband's face turned red with anger and jealousy. "Why did you invite her here?" he asked, pointing at Sarah. "I thought it would be nice to have a little get-together," I replied, acting oblivious to his anger. My husband stormed out of the room, and I followed him. As he paced back and forth, I could see the anger and frustration building inside of him. "Is there something going on between you and Ryan?" he asked, finally exploding. "No, of course not," I replied, acting innocent. "I don't believe you," he said, his voice shaking with rage. "I know that you're seeing him." "I'm not seeing anyone," I said, trying to remain calm. But deep down, I knew that my plan was working. My husband was finally starting to feel the same pain that I had felt when I discovered his affair. As the weeks went by, my husband's jealousy and anger continued to grow. Our relationship became more strained, and I could see that he was starting to regret his actions. Eventually, my husband came clean and apologized for his infidelity. He promised that he would never cheat on me again and begged for my forgiveness. Although I had achieved my revenge, I couldn't help but feel a sense of emptiness. I had accomplished what I set out to do, but at what cost? Our relationship was forever changed, and I knew that we would never be the same again. After my husband's confession and apology, I was left feeling conflicted. On one hand, I was glad that he had finally come clean and recognized the pain that he had caused me. On the other hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that our relationship was irreparably damaged. We decided to go to couples therapy to work through our issues, and although it was helpful, it was also incredibly difficult. It was painful to talk about his affair and the betrayal that I had felt. I had to confront the fact that the person who I had trusted the most had betrayed me in the worst possible way. But with time, we started to make progress. My husband continued to show remorse and take responsibility for his actions, and I started to let go of my anger and resentment. However, things were never quite the same. Even when we were able to laugh and enjoy each other's company, there was always an underlying tension. We both knew that we had been through something that would always be a part of our relationship. There were times when I found myself wondering if I would ever be able to fully trust my husband again. Even though he had apologized and promised to never cheat again, I couldn't help but wonder if he was capable of doing it again. Despite my doubts, we continued to work on our relationship. We made an effort to communicate more openly and honestly, and we worked hard to rebuild the trust that had been broken. Over time, our relationship started to heal. It was never perfect, but it was strong in its imperfection. We had been through a difficult journey, but we had come out the other side together. Looking back on the experience, I realized that sometimes the most painful moments in life can be the ones that teach us the most. I had learned about the importance of trust, communication, and forgiveness. And although I would never forget the pain of my husband's betrayal, I was grateful for the opportunity to grow and learn from it.